Talk a little football here. New Orleans Saints. By now the Saints have made a trade with Philadelphia, and they acquired another first-round pick. Saints give up their spot at number 18, as well as 101 and 237, and they give up a first-rounder in next year's draft and a second-rounder in the following draft. And basically for it, the Saints get another first-round pick. So the Saints now sit at 16 and 19 in this first round. This makes sense on a lot of levels to me. One, you've got a roster that you think is good. You've got a defense that we talked about the other day that by some metrics is graded the best in the NFL. You've got elite skill position players, and you've got a quarterback who, if we're painting a rosy picture here, has thrown for 5,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. Talk about 30 interceptions. He has thrown for 5,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. You feel like your team is in pretty good shape. Now, you've dealt with some salary cap issues, and you knew that Kamara had to get paid. You knew that Thomas had to get paid, and Ramczyk had to get paid, and Mario Davis had to get paid, and Lattimore had to get paid, and all that stuff's got to happen. And you make the decisions that Tyrann Armstead's going to have to walk, and you couldn't deal with Hendrickson, and then you lose Williams at safety. And so there are some decisions that had to be made, and money was tight there because they went for it at the end of the Drew Brees era, as they should have. That's what you do. You do what the Rams are doing. You got a great team, go for it. The Dodgers are doing the same thing in baseball. You got to go for it. And the Saints have made it pretty clear they're not in a rebuilding situation. So what you get in having the number 16 pick and number 19 pick is one of two things, and we'll find out in time what the Saints believe they're going to do. You've got a little more draft capital to move up a few spots if you want to go grab Matt Corral or Kenny Pickett and you think that's the spot. If you're looking for the quarterback of the future and you need to move, you're not moving up to 1, 2, or 3, but if you can move up to 11 and you think that's where you you can land one of these guys that you think is the guy, you've got a little more capital to do that with 2 first-round picks. Or you can just add 2 cheap starters to a roster that's got some guys making a lot of money. The Saints are, more so than anyone else in the league that I can see, good at kicking that can down the road. We'll worry about that later. Converting things into roster bonuses, crunching the numbers. We'll defer all that. We'll figure it out later. We'll worry about not having a first-round pick next year later. We'll worry about not having that second-round pick the following year later. We want this now. And that's not a rebuild situation. That is a try to improve your roster for next season. And I love it. So whether it's we got to get our wide receiver here, it's Treylon Burks, or it's Jameson Williams, this is a spot we got to get him, and we're going to get our offensive tackle right here. That's what we got to do. You've got the opportunity to do that. Or if you want to make that splash and go get a quarterback, it's there. You've got options now. And I'm certain that the Saints had that in mind when they made this decision. They've essentially, at this point now, you've kind of got your draft board, especially for the first round, figured out what you like, who may be there at a certain spot, and where you want to go. I think the Saints have certainly done that. And at this point, it's the interesting thing for the talk radio guy to sit here and say, hey, they're going to get Kenny Pickett. Here they come. A lot of buzz around him in Carolina right now. Oh, Matt Corral, they've identified that's their guy. They're going for him. I don't know if that makes you feel warm and fuzzy as a Saints fan or not. I think there's a split on Jameis. I have 2 lines of access to Saints fan feelings. I've got this show with the Bayou Ford chat and Twitter and all that kind of stuff, and then I've got my buddies who are big Saints fans. And I can tell you that my buddies who are big Saints fans are split on Jameis. Some think this guy's plenty good enough to win. Get him a healthy Mike Thomas. Go get a real number 2. Let Kamara run the football. You're going to be fine. Some people think this guy throws a million interceptions. They neutered him last year because they didn't trust him. That's kind of the camp that I fall in. I'm not a big Jameis believer. Last year sent a message to me. While he was under center, the Saints threw the ball less than any team in the NFL with Sean Payton at the helm tells me they didn't trust him. And I am fully aware that the offensive line was broken, that there was nobody to throw it to wide receiver-wise. Like, I understand it all. But I just feel like if there was any confidence whatsoever, that they would have let him throw it a little bit more, and they just didn't. I mean, the second game against Carolina was ugly. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm just not a huge Jameis buyer. That contract, yeah, it is a couple years, but there's always a market for quarterbacks. You kind of become the 49ers if you bring in a young guy here. Where we've been looking, well, is Jimmy G going to be traded? Are they going to do with this? Are they going to go with Trey Lance? What are they going to do? The Saints kind of become that if you go take a quarterback in this year in the first round. Or go get your stud wide receiver. Put him next to Thomas. Let's roll. But I'm not smitten with Jameis, and it would be really interesting if the Saints decided to flip these picks around and go get a quarterback. The other news out of Saints camp today is very public visit from a former Tiger. He's been spending a lot of time in South Louisiana these days. Tyrann Mathieu was at the Saints facility today. Sounds like, based on the tweet from I just saw from Nick Underhill, that meeting has completed. It looks like it was about a 2-3 hour visit. And Tyrann's one of the best players still left on the market. I don't know Tyrann personally, and I don't know what he's thinking in his free agent year. Does he want to go to the highest bidder? Does he find it very important to find a team that can win? Is home important? Is he willing to take a discount? And the Saints aren't in a disastrous salary cap situation at the moment. And certainly with an aging safety, you can find the pennies in the couch cushion to make that work if you want to. Now, they signed Marcus May, we know, but bringing in some depth is certainly not going to hurt. And Tyrann is a great player to have in your locker room and a good player to have on the field. He is a little bit older, but he's an all-decade guy who's certainly got some tread left on the tires. And I think it would just be a massively popular massively popular signing if the Saints could make it happen and bring Tyrann home. It's so funny how the narrative changes, because when he was going into the draft, the thought was, God, just anywhere but New Orleans. He goes back to New Orleans, he's going to fall back into some of the ways that got him in trouble at LSU. It can't work. He's got to go somewhere else. And he went out to Arizona, and Patrick Peterson was there. Now, the narrative after 10 years has totally flipped, and it's, you got to have that guy in your locker room. Consummate pro, great influence. Great leader. Flipped its narrative on its head. It's been a great story to watch. But he has spent some time with the Saints, and we'll see if that's something the Saints are interested in. Usually in free agency, it's a situation where we just kind of look and speculate based on player, position, whatever, and you don't really know until you know. This has been really public. There's a bunch of pictures of Tyrann walking into the Saints facility. He's there, and they are checking it all out. I'm not sure who's making the sales pitch, whether it's the Saints saying you got to come here or Tyrann saying, hey, bring me in, I can do this. I think there may be some mutual respect there and some mutual interest. And I think it would be a great story if Tyrann did go back to New Orleans, go back home, and play for the Hoodats.
Thanks so much for watching Hunt Hill on YouTube.
Now do us a favor. Hit the red subscribe button below and throw us a like. We'll see you next time.